Hello biologists, we're here for part 2 of Lab 3.17, chicken muscles, and MCA science test prep. Let's get back to osmosis. Osmosis is an important topic on the MCA science test, so it's really important that you remember how osmosis works. To make a model for osmosis, I took a bunch of eggs and dissolved the shells in vinegar. I let them soak for a couple of days. And they turned out like this. Okay, so to get this experiment going, once I had the eggs without the shell, you can see that they're pretty squishy. I put one in corn syrup, which is a very thick sugar solution that's often in soft drinks. And that's a hypertonic solution. It's more concentrated than the solution inside the egg. So you can see that the water left the egg, and the egg is now kind of wrinkled and shrivelly the way grapes dry up and turn into raisins and get all those wrinkles. So a lot of water left this egg. And since I put this egg in just plain old water, which is less concentrated than what's inside the egg, the solution inside our model egg cell here, the water went into the egg and the egg got bigger. You can see, if you compare sizes, you can see one egg is far larger than the other. I have a photo here in just a moment. So at this point, question 8 on your lab sheet should be pretty easy to answer. What's happening in each situation? Well, the hypertonic situation is the corn syrup. The egg got smaller, it's kind of wrinkly, and you can see that water left because it's not even filling the sort of cell membrane that it was in. The hypotonic solution, or below what's in the cell, less concentrated than in the cell, was this situation. Plain water is less concentrated, has less solute in it than the solution inside the model egg cell here. If I'd put it in an isotonic solution, a solution that has the same concentration as in and outside the egg, then the egg would have stayed the same size, or our model cell in this case. The egg is modeling a cell here. So hypertonic is the corn syrup. Water leaves the cell, or the egg in this case, since we're using that as a model. Hypotonic is the plain water. Water comes into the cell, or in this case the egg. Isotonic is the same and it remains the same. Things that are isotonic are saline solution that a hospital might use to give someone an IV, or your contact solution is pretty much isotonic to your eyes so it doesn't hurt. When I did this experiment last year, I took the eggs out of their solution and I weighed them, and they both weighed about the same at the beginning. The egg in the plain water had gained about 40 grams, and the egg in the corn syrup had lost about 40 grams. So there's a big difference whether you put something in a hypertonic solution or a hypertonic solution. Wait, let's go back. This is a hypertonic and a hypotonic solution. Hypo means below, like hypothermia is below your normal temperature. So number 9 says you work for a company that grows vaccines in eggs. It's your job to find out the concentration of solution inside plain eggs. Your boss has given you very simple equipment: a balance, a dozen eggs, salt, distilled water, vinegar, and 12 beakers. Design an experiment that will determine the concentration inside the egg. So what's your hypothesis? Write an if, then, because statement. If I make different solutions, then I can find one that's isotonic because I'll weigh the egg before and after and there'll be no change. One thing that we could change is the concentration of the solution. And we'll know the solution is isotonic if the egg does not change in mass before or after we put it in the solution. We'll weigh it before and we'll weigh it after. So here's the setup for this solution. I put different amounts of salt in cups. I added the same amount of water to every cup. So I kept everything the same, the size of the cup, the type of water, the amount of water. The only thing that I changed was the salt, the amount of salt. And you can see that it was right around here that we got to isotonic, because the egg is at least the same density. So you can finish writing the rest of 9 on your own. Number 10, how is an egg like a cell system? Well, a system basically just is whatever you define it as. There's the system, a boundary that you define, and the surroundings. So our egg systems here that are a good way to model cell systems, the boundary here is the membrane. And this system is an open system since things can go across the membrane, especially water. Other things could be systems like the Earth is a system. It's not a closed system, but it certainly does have a boundary. The atmosphere is kind of our boundary around Earth with space. Things do come and go, but not a lot. Our house is kind of a system. Our walls are kind of a boundary. There are things, the system kind of acts to maintain homeostasis. Your house has systems within it that work to maintain a constant temperature, or you work within the boundary of your house system to maintain a constant temperature by opening and closing windows and starting fans or making sure the heat comes on. Your computer is a system. It's got boundaries. Things go in and out. So there are lots of systems, and that's a concept that you need to understand for the MCA test. So last question. Which published study will have the most credible information about how eating chicken will affect your health? Explain why. This is kind of a kind of question that they will have on the MCA science test. So let's think about, would we want to believe a study sponsored by the American Chicken Farmers Council, published in the Journal of Modern Chicken Farming, or a study sponsored by the American Beef Farmers Organization, published in the Journal of Modern Agriculture, or C, a study sponsored by the U.S. Department of Health, published in the New England Journal of Medicine? Now for me, I would pick this one. The U.S. Department of Health is supposed to not be too biased towards one industry or another. And the New England Journal of Medicine is a peer-reviewed journal. That means other scientists and doctors read other people's experiments to make sure that they did a good job of conducting the experiment. This one is sponsored by chicken farmers, and the journal is reviewed by other chicken farmers, so they might have a little bit of bias when publishing and accepting results from experiments about eating chicken. Beef farmers might be biased in the other direction, like, hey, you should eat cows, not chickens. And they might even publish things that say, hey, don't eat chicken. The Journal of Modern Agriculture might be a little bit less biased because it's less of a subject-specific journal, but I'm going to vote for New England Journal of Medicine. It's a very well-respected journal, has lots of folks from lots of different disciplines reading it and critiquing the articles that come in. So science can be biased. It depends on who sponsors the study. It depends on what journal it's published in. So it's very important when you're looking at scientific research, you think about who sponsored the study and where it was published. And that's one thing you need to know for the MCA test. Okay, there is one extra credit question on this lab. We'll talk about the ACL, or the anterior cruciate ligament. Ligaments connect bone to bone, and this here is the inside of your knee. You can see that the anterior cruciate ligament connects your femur to your tibia. The tibia is like the big bone that you hit when you slam into the coffee table in the dark. It's your shin bone. So this here is a big concern for a lot of football players because it's a common injury in football and maybe even soccer. This holds the two bones in your leg together. It's behind your kneecap here, which is that bony thing that sticks out on your knee. It's called the patella. This ligament, which connects bone to bone, not muscle to bone, that's a tendon. This ligament is crucial here. So football players know a lot about their ACL, which is anterior cruciate ligament, because it's A, key ligament that you really need to know, and B, it's often an injury in football. But this is a ligament that maybe everybody should know because it sticks your knee together. Cartilage right here, this gray stuff, lubricates the joint. It keeps bone from grinding on bone. If you lose this cartilage here, this padding and lubricant, your knee is going to sound like it's grinding, and that would be bad. That's what happens as people get old and they get osteoarthritis. The cartilage between your joints gets kind of worn out. And that's all for Lab 3.17. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hand in your lab to the Dropbox. And good luck on the MCA test.